Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third annual Urban Sustainability Symposium, brought to you by the CCAN Center for Sustainable and Intelligent Infrastructure at Cal State Los Angeles. My name is Emily Allen, and I'm Dean of the College of Engineering, Computer Science, and Technology at Cal State LA. Our college hosts the CCAN Center, which produces this annual symposium. The symposium has been organized by Associate Professor Marianne and a team of faculty and staff. The CCAN City Center was established in 2019 with a generous donation from the CCAN Foundation to honor Gunjit S. Sikand, who was a professor of civil engineering here at our college before developing a very successful firm, Sikand Engineering, here in Los Angeles. Through their gift, the CCAN Foundation recognizes the importance of Cal State LA in educating and advancing so many local LA County students who become engineers, computer scientists, and technologists and contribute to improving the thriving communities we live in. The City Center's main goal is to facilitate and support multidisciplinary faculty research, student engagement, and development, and to foster connections between the university and practitioners in a variety of urban sustainability efforts. Today's symposium features a diverse set of speakers who will share their efforts in improving the sustainability of our urban infrastructures. Before we begin to hear from our speakers, I would like to share with you some of the faculty and student research efforts taking place here at Cal State LA in the arena of urban sustainability. Professor Arturo Pacheco Vega directs the Center for Energy and Sustainability, an NSF-funded research center that has just been renewed with another $5 million of funding for another 5 years. Research funded by that center includes fundamental research in building infrastructure, battery technology, and clean water infrastructure. We also have faculty conducting research on earthquake engineering and resilience, and a project with JPL on wind turbine design for harvesting energy on Venus. Cal State LA is a research and fueling station, which not only fuels hundreds of fuel cell cars every month, but is also a training center for future engineers for the hydrogen economy. Our faculty and students are involved in research in sustainable transportation, including sustainable pavement materials, local grid design, electric car design, intelligent transportation tunnel infrastructure, as well as many projects addressing water issues. In fact, our civil engineering students were awarded a $10,000 prize from the National Council of Engineering Examiners for last year's project on a sustainable recycled water recharge program, for which they designed a decentralized wastewater treatment scheme for residential wastewater. This project was typical of our senior design program, which pairs our student teams with real clients and professional engineers. Our students come from LA, mostly stay in LA, and are committed to making LA a better place, which means finding more sustainable solutions for everything we do as a region. We hope that some of you will reach out to us in the future when you're looking for newly minted engineers and technologists, or to partner with us on solutions for the future. To guide us throughout this morning's symposium, I would like to introduce this morning's session moderator. Marjorie Alexander is an environmental activist, media producer, and host of the podcast, A Sustainable Mind. After 10 years in film production, she decided to make the work she did in the world match the passion and values she practiced in her personal life. She seeks to inspire a new generation of environmental change makers. Marjorie, welcome to the CCAN City Center Symposium. I'll now hand this morning's session off to you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Hello again, my name is Marjorie Alexander, host of A Sustainable Mind podcast and manager of education and engagement at Green Building United. Thank you all so much for joining us for this year's symposium. It is an absolute pleasure to be introducing a fantastic line of keynote speakers, as well as moderating the first of 2 technical discussions for the day. And it would be great if after this first set of discussions, this first set of presentations will have a discussion at the end. So I'm going to dive right in to introducing our first speaker. So Greg Spotz is the Chief Sustainability Officer and Assistant Director of the City of Los Angeles. And Greg's specialties include climate change adaptation for cities with a special focus on mitigating urban heat, and as well as urban design to support walking, cycling, public transit, and placemaking, and the management of urban forests. Greg, are you ready to give us your presentation? I can't hear you, Greg. Go ahead and turn on your mic there.
I think they just turned it on. Can you hear me
All
now?
right, sounds fantastic.
So you can hear me and see me. Now I have to just make sure you can see my slides as well. Hold on a second here. Okay, can you guys see that image?
Sounds great and looks
Can
great.
you see the slide? Good. Okay, great. So good morning. I'm Greg Spotz. I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for Streets LA, which is the Los Angeles Bureau of Street Services, part of the Department of Public Works. Under Mayor Garcetti's leadership, each of the 40 city departments has their own Chief Sustainability Officer. And it's really a second hat that I wear. I'm an assistant director. First and foremost, I oversee 600 of our 1,200 staff. But more and more, I've been leaning into the Chief Sustainability Officer role and trying to, position Los Angeles to adapt to a warming world. Today, I'm really pleased to be with you. I've been to many events at Cal State LA, but I think this is the first time I've had a chance to present, and I'm really honored to join you. I know that the university is a very important player in the civic life and public service and developing our future leaders. I'm going to talk to you today about Cool Streets LA, which is our pioneering effort to blend emerging solutions like cool pavement with proven solutions like shade tree planting to help cool our neighborhoods and reduce the urban heat island effect. One of the really neat things we're doing is we've partnered with Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena to visualize our region from space. On the International Space Station, there's a thermal camera that's called the Ecostress Camera. And these are images of the Los Angeles region on a hot summer day in July 2018. On the left is right before midnight, and on the right is at 4 a.m. Now, bear in mind, there's no base map for these images. This is a thermal image only. Why can we see our roads, freeways, port, and airports? That's because they're emitting heat. So look at the slide on the right. Even at 4 a.m. in the summer, our hardscape, our asphalt and concrete, all the infrastructure that we built for transportation is emitting heat into our neighborhoods. This is very important because the human being recovers from daytime heat at night. And a lot of our heat-related emergency room visits and deaths happen in warm summer nights. So the fact that our infrastructure is inhibiting our ability to recover from daytime heat is a serious and growing problem. Let's see how much this problem is going to grow. Here's the city of Los Angeles within the county. And our northern rim here in the San Fernando Valley, these communities already have a large number of days with a peak temperature exceeding 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's going to increase significantly. Look at Porter Ranch here. Today, approximately 55 days exceeding 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, in the next 20 to 40 years, that's going to become 100 days. Sylmar, 54 to 96. Sunland, 36 to 73. And then communities over here on the eastern edge of our city, right near your campus, are going to go from having not so much of a heat problem with 13 days to 42 or 41 days, similar to some of our most hot communities today. So if we don't act to reduce the heat island effect, we're going to see a sharp increase in heat-related emergency room visits and deaths. And LA is one of the only cities in the United States that has heat-related emergency room visits and deaths in the winter. We can have a hot, still humid air mass develop in January where people die. People aren't prepared. Phoenix has much hotter weather, but it's in a certain part of the year. They've, built their dwellings to be ready for it. But here in LA, we can have a dangerous warm spell in January, and our vulnerable populations are not prepared. The good news for my agency is many of the strategies to reduce the heat island effect are right within our jurisdiction, right? We manage the road surface, and cool roadway coatings is one option. We also build public plazas. We manage 700,000 street trees. We can create shade structures. On the left is the Hoover Triangle. We turned a traffic island into a nice little urban oasis planting mature trees and putting up 2 shade sails. Another very important intervention is cool roofs. That's outside of the jurisdiction of our agency, but Los Angeles is a leader in that. There are more than 50 million square feet of cool roofs already installed in LA, thanks to incentives and requirements. So our innovation journey began in 2015 with an off-street test of a cool pavement coating at the parking lot at Balboa Recreation Center. So we coated the asphalt in the area in the top right of your screen, and the bottom left is the control area. And we found that this thin gray coating actually reduced the surface temperature of the asphalt by 5 degrees centigrade in a hot summer day. And we thought that was significant, about a 10 to 12 degree difference Fahrenheit. So then in 2017, we set out to be the first city in California and perhaps the United States to apply a cool pavement product on a public street. Previously, they'd only been applied on off-street parking for office buildings that were seeking LEED sustainability points. We applied it by hand with squeegees and 2 coats, and we continued to find that it was about the surface temperature was about 10 degrees cooler on warm summer days. We did 1 city block in each of the 15 council districts, so communities across the city would have a chance to have a project near them and go take a look at it. Then in 2019, we obtained some more funding to do neighborhood level projects where we would do cool pavement coating on 5 to 10 city blocks and then plant shade trees in all the available planting locations. Notice in the upper left, on the right side sidewalk and parkway there, not a single street tree. We fixed that. We planted 80 trees along here. We coated this Stephanie Drive, which is a crescent-shaped street, and the 5 cul-de-sacs that come off it. And now I want to show you that you can see that crescent from space. This is an image from the Ecostress thermal camera of the International Space Station taken August 14th, 2020 at 4 p.m. This box is the Winnetka neighborhood where we did the project. This is an expansion of that neighborhood. Look at this. You can see Stephanie Drive from space. You can see the cooling effect of the cool pavement on Stephanie Drive from space. And if you look at this differently, here's a different way to visualize the same data set. What we've done by applying the cool pavement and planting the shade trees, we've cooled the area within 100 meters of these streets. So all the pixels that were in 100 meters are graphed as the green line, and the whole rest of the Winnetka neighborhood is graphed as the red line. These are surface temperatures as measured from space. And you can see that we've shifted the entire distribution of surface temperatures to the left, to the cooler, on average by 2 degrees Fahrenheit. And 2 degrees doesn't sound like a lot, but remember, we're talking about the entire neighborhood. We're talking, it would be a larger effect if the pixels were smaller, right? But this is very interesting finding that these cool solutions really work. I've made a lot of slides in my career, and I call this slide the $4 million slide, because we actually used this image and this analysis to obtain $4 million for cool pavement coating and $2 million for tree planting in our current fiscal year's budget. So what are we doing now? We're launching our next phase of urban cooling, 200 city blocks of cool pavement coating and the planting of around 1,900 shade trees across 8 underserved neighborhoods. We use some really interesting GIS-based mapping tools to identify these project areas. We used the Climate Smart Cities tool for Los Angeles. We used the Google Earth tree canopy map and a tree equity map that's national now that you can look at. We layered on exposure to heat, lack of tree canopy, and the CalEnviro screen, which helps us identify environmental justice neighborhoods that have previously been burdened with a lot of environmental challenges in an equitable way. Interestingly, these same communities we identified are often communities that were redlined in the 1930s. The absence of tree cover correlates with the places where historically discriminated federal policy took place about lending for housing. So we came up with this 200 city block program. We got funding for it, and now we're implementing it. We started in North Hollywood, and then we've moved to Sylmar. Here's a couple pictures from Sylmar. One of the really exciting things we've done is if you spend $4 million on something, you actually drive the price down. We drove the price of this coating down from $2.50 a square foot applied to 98 cents. And we did that with our purchasing power. Our vendor had this whole rig constructed. It's more than $100,000 cost. It's a tanker trailer with a 9-foot wide spray bar, and it makes a 9-foot swath of the school pavement. It doesn't have to be touched by human hands. That's reduced the labor cost significantly. This is really exciting because in the public sector, you can actually influence sustainable related products and services with your purchasing power. And then to the right, I'm very proud to say we're cutting new tree wells as part of this program. That rarely happens with city-funded projects. Usually we need a tree planting grant from CAL FIRE or somewhere else to actually open up new tree planting opportunities. Most of the city-funded tree planting, street tree planting in the city is in vacant parkway, not creating new tree wells. And here on the right at Sylmar High School, we cut 17 tree wells and planted trees that one day will shade students as they walk to school. Right now, it's a very unshaded and warm place in the afternoon when the kids walk home from school. So this is our project. We've influenced projects, urban cooling projects in Phoenix, Australia, and Europe. It's really exciting, when you work in this field of climate change adaptation. If you communicate about your successes and your innovations, you can actually drive broader adoption of these solutions. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm very pleased to have had a chance to share this with you.
Thank you so much, Greg. This was wonderful. And actually, it's funny, as you were speaking, I realized that you and I might have been on an email chain back in the day when I was doing urban forestry work down in El Segundo, California. So good to see you, and very interesting presentation. So
let's meet for coffee sometime soon.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So now we are going to move on to Marianne, Marianne's presentation. Marianne Howland is the co-chair, founder, and CEO of the American Sustainable Business Council Global Diversity Leadership Exchange. And as part of the Leadership Exchange, Marianne is the visionary and executive producer of the forum designed to advance the mission and purpose of inclusive and global sustainability. As the CEO of IBIS Communications, Marianne leads a team of creative professionals who work together to provide comprehensive marketing solutions for leading networks and organizations such as Comcast, TV One, Scripps Network, and BET. Marianne, are you with us? Give Marianne one quick second here. All right, maybe not. Give me one quick second. All right, so we will move on to Denise Deluca.
Oh, sorry, Marianne's here. She needs some help with mic and video from our team.
Ah, okay. Let's see if we can bring Marianne here on in just one moment. All right, we're going to move on to Denise Deluca, and we'll come back to Marianne's presentation in a bit. So Denise Deluca is the director of the Sustainable Design Program at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. She was the co-founder of BCI, the Biomimicry Creative for Innovation, a network of creative professionals, change agents driving ecological thinking for radical transformation. She is also the governing board president at the International Society of Sustainability Professionals. Denise, welcome, and you may begin.
Thank you, and I apologize for all the syllables in my various titles. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here, and thanks for inviting me to speak. I actually, so I'm here today representing the International Society of Sustainability Professionals. And our vision is envisioning a future where sustainability is standard practice. And I think you all join me in that. So my name is Denise Deluca. I'm currently the governing board president of ISSP, and I'm also director of the MA in Sustainable Design program at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. We're a fully online program, so I actually don't live in Minneapolis. I'm joining you from the West Coast in Oregon. So I told you about our vision. Our mission is empowering sustainability professionals like all of you across the workforce and around the world. So we really are focusing on international scale, supporting sustainability professionals. And we've got 4 ways that we do that. One is convening the professional community. Another is advancing professional credentials. A third is driving professional excellence. And the fourth is building the profession. So convening the professional community, I think this may be go right to the hearts of all of you. And of course, this is what this symposium is about. If you're in the sustainability field, many of us are, fighting the uphill battle. We're fighting, we're peripheralized, and it can be really wonderful in like a symposium like this to come together and talk with like-minded people and learn what's working, learn what's not, and share with each other, and just, literally be together. It's a really, we find that to be a really important role for us. So we consider ourselves to be the leading international network of sustainability professionals. And again, we speak about this in a broad way beyond just the built environment. So we were founded in 2008, committed to serving a young and growing profession, not just young people, but the profession being young, by delivering expertise in every sector and industry across the planet. By now, we've got a global network of more than 2,000 members, and I think we hit most continents in the US. We started, in the world. We started in the US, so we've got quite a number of members here, and it's really exciting to see how rapidly we're getting people who want to call themselves sustainability professionals, growing across the globe. There we go. So in the past, we've done in-person conferences as part of convening the profession. And in the past year, of course, we weren't able to do that. So we hopped online, and maybe some of you had joined the Tedx countdown event that was a year ago, October, and again this year, which is a really exciting international event. I was invited to do a Tedx version of that. So they had these follow-up Tedx events. So we did Tedx ISSP, and we got to convene our honorees from our Hall of Fame. And some of these names might be familiar to you: John Elkington and Susan Burns and Jill Macauer. And it was a really neat event because, like the countdown event, we watched a short speaker, and then we went to breakout rooms. And so our members from all over the world got to be in a small breakout room with some of the sustainability leaders that we're all familiar with. So it was really wonderful from that standpoint, as well as sharing ideas. Besides that, the other ways we convene the profession is we have this online platform for member Q&A and sharing. It's one of those forums you can go on there. Hey, I'm working on this. Does anyone know about this? Or I just want to share this event with you. So it's really wonderful for sharing in a casual way that way. We have regional chapters for local gathering, learning, and sharing. And then we have a member directory, which helps people find each other for connecting and networking. So again, this is all about convening the profession, helping people find each other and support each other in this important work. Just one example is one of our members, Vincent Mokaya from Nairobi. And he said, with my contribution currently linked to the UN SDGs, being a member of ISSP has helped me network with like-minded people whom I benchmark and brainstorm with. So that's exactly what we're after in this part of our work. So we also focus on advancing professional credentials. I think all of you in the built environment are aware how important LEED was when it first got started. It took, this area and really, set some benchmarks and set some credentials for both professionals and buildings. And that has done so much and opened up so many opportunities for more, advanced credentials. So back in the day, ISSP created what was called the ISSP SA, that was Sustainability Associate, and then the ISSP CSP. As this grew, GBCI, who you probably all know hosts the LEED credentials, they obtained those from us so we could have that objective separation. And they recently rebranded it and relaunched it as the SEA, the Sustainability Excellence Associate, and the SEP, the Sustainability Excellence Professional. So the SEA, if you get this, it's passing an exam, shows that it demonstrates core understanding of sustainability concepts. And it's really designed for emerging sustainability professionals and people who are in some industry. Again, we go across industries and want to show, hey, I want to get in the sustainability thing. I want to prove to the world, clients and employers, that I have that baseline knowledge, not just the passion. And the next step up is SEP, and that demonstrates advanced knowledge and expertise. So that's an exam, there's an essay exam, and you have to have credentials just to apply. And that recognizes leaders and experts in sustainability field. And I'm guessing some of you would fall into that category. So if you don't have a way to show the world, hey, I know this stuff, it's not just passion, I didn't just go to a couple of workshops, I know this. This is for you. And we want to make it for all, again, across industries, across sectors. So that's that. Now, driving professional excellence. Since we separated, so now GBCI owns those credentials, we are more free to train people at breadth and depth in fundamental sustainability. So we have these study guides, the combination of which really is almost like the body of knowledge that any sustainability professional ought to know if they're going to be practicing sustainability in the world. And some people get just the study guides even without taking the exam because they want to know, what is there to know about sustainability, but I'm afraid to ask. So that, the history, the breadth, the depth. So these are really valuable tools in addition to preparing you to take the exams. In addition to that, we have all kinds of capacity building opportunities. We're aligned with the SDGs, including self-paced courses for organization-wide ESG implementation and monitoring. So we're just having this organizational members, and they say, we want all of our people to be literate in sustainability. When we were doing that is we're offering a series of foundational courses. One is this, what we call the sustainability short course. It's only 1 hour long. It's on demand, so it's really easy to access. We want it to be really accessible to people. So it's 1 hour foundations level overview of the figures and frameworks, moments and movements that shape the profession. So this is like kind of the basics. The next one up is again another self-paced course, and that's 4 hours. Little more in depth on concept issues and levers of change for beginning sustainability professionals. So if you have colleagues, you go, God, I wish they knew this stuff. This is the kind of thing we want it to be, we created it for. We're in the process of creating another one, which is going to be a total of 24-hour course, which would be much more in depth. In addition to these on-demand courses, we have these monthly webinars, and we have some that are technical. They're specific to advancing like specific parts of like professions or industries. So you might be interested in those. And then we also do career building webinars. People who are like, I'm new to the, how do I advance myself in this, emerging profession? And so people have really enjoyed those, and we're excited to get, reach more people and people's specific interests. In addition to those, we have a monthly blog that you're welcome to explore. And if you see the websites at the bottom right-hand corner. So every month we invite a sustainability professional leader from around the world to have a thought piece. And so these are really valuable. It's not just repeating what other people have said, what you see across social media. So I encourage you to explore those. And then the last part is building the profession. So again, we were founded because we realized all these people need other people to talk to. They need to show the world I am credentialed. And then also to lift the whole profession. So it's not in the back corner somewhere. And it sounds like some people in this symposium are rising up and becoming central to their organizations, which is great to hear. So one of the ways we did this is just pre-pandemic, and the end of it was December 2019, we held a global Congress. So it wasn't a conference, it was a Congress. We really came together to address some issues, and we partnered with ACCO, which is the Association of Climate Change Officers, and maybe some of you are part of that. And it was a really neat Congress because in addition to some panels and presentations, the focus was really small groups getting together to tackle specific challenges that we all as sustainability professionals are facing, and what can we do as organizations to support you all and ourselves as sustainability professionals. And our call to action was increasing employer requirements for professional credentials, so that you can differentiate yourself from someone who goes, oh, I'm really passionate about sustainability, but they really don't know. In my role as director of the MA and Sustainable Design Program, I don't know how many of our students come in saying, I've been trying to do recycling at my work, but I know there's more to be had. Yes, there is more to be had. And so you need to learn this stuff and then make the employers require it. So that's one way to lift the profession. Another is to provide high quality training and resources that enable industry leading competencies. So get out ahead of the game, regardless of the industry that you're in. Also ensure leaders across business and society are adequately skilled and informed. Again, I'm sure you've run into this yourselves where you have someone go, oh, I want to do this thing. And it's like, oh my God, you're doing more harm than good. You mean well, but you are not adequately skilled and informed. So providing that. And then advance social justice, equity, diversity, inclusion across sectors and throughout society. And I was really glad with the previous speaker talking about targeting neighborhoods that are historically disadvantaged, because that is whatever we do in sustainability, although it emerged from the environmental side, we realize it is completely intertwined with the social side. So it's really great to hear. And then demonstrate measurable action that meets targets of the UN SDGs and the Paris Agreement, and foster shared strategic agenda, knowledge, and practices across professions and sectors to achieve UN SDGs and the Paris Agreement. So the idea is again, convening community, providing skills, lifting the profession, and really being there for all of you, and then all of our members really contribute to what we are. So that's what we're about. So International Society of Sustainability Professionals, ISSP, envisioning a future where sustainability is standard practice.
Thank you so much, Denise. So much going on in Minneapolis as it pertains to really going beyond the basics of sustainability and getting into that career development, which you mentioned. So I want to reintroduce Marianne Howland, again, founder and CEO of Global Diversity Leadership Exchange, where their mission revolves around focusing on an inclusive and global sustainability. So Marianne, welcome. Take it away.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely. You sound great.
Wonderful. Sorry about that technical difficulty.
No problem. We understand.
Well, good morning, and I'm just so delighted to be invited to speak to you today on a topic that I'm really passionate about, especially with brand new news of the merger of the American Sustainable Business Council and Social Venture Circle. These are two organizations that have merged to become the American Sustainable Business Network, and brings together the impact investing network of Social Venture Circle and the public policy advocacy of the American Sustainable Business Council for a social, economic, and environmental justice system that works for all. You know, I was delighted to hear about the project, the urban cooling project that the gentleman who was speaking earlier about talked about. And then Denise talked about the US, Sustainable Development Goals. And there's so much work to do in the area of urban sustainability, especially on the social and economic justice side. ASBC focuses on issues such as climate change, circular economy, regenerative agriculture, food justice, clean infrastructure and broadband, high road business practices, which include family medical leave, living wage, fighting for democracy, voting rights, and election reform, and for cooperatives through our working groups that concentrate on each of these topics. For example, our Race and Equity Working Group is currently focused on the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill, the George Floyd Policing Act, ending qualified immunity, and supporting Black farmers. As it relates to urban sustainability, we first must consider the demographics of urban communities. And typically they are where the rich diversity of America is concentrated, as are inequities, as close as your neighborhood, just on the other side of the main road. Black and brown people live in red line districts that the gentleman spoke about and have poorer schools, lower quality healthcare, and include more renters than homeowners, and are underbanked, over-policed, and over-incarcerated. And over-incarcerated Black and brown people means loss of income. They break up families, lose voting rights, and the ability to participate in democracy, to use their voice to further interests for their own future. It's difficult to talk about urban sustainability without first talking about what is unsustainable. Black people have 10% of the net worth of white America. While the average net worth for white America is $170,000, it's only $17,000 for Black people. And 50% of the homeless population in San Francisco is Black. Yet only 5% of the population is Black. The Black home ownership rate in 2017 was 42% versus 72% for whites. And the gap is bigger today than it was when it was legal to refuse to sell someone a home because of the color of their skin. And people with disabilities that make up 15% of the US population, they too are underemployed, and students are undereducated due to a school system that lacks sufficient accommodations. They are forced to thrive on disability, a below poverty stipend. When we go through every industry and every metric of measurement of the American dream, we find huge gaps from education to healthcare, to home ownership, to incarceration, to wages. Urban sustainability requires examining the built environment to determine the fissures and the cracks due to some old policies such as redlining, implemented with FDR's New Deal, and the build out of interstate systems that roared through Black communities and ripped apart thriving economic centers, and some new policies including opportunity zones, which are largely taken advantage of by hidden investors that result in the displacement of people due to gentrification. So we must examine our systems that have allowed people to fall through the cracks. And once we understand that, then we can repair the damage and create a more sustainable community. What is unsustainable is systems that are extractive. It's so expensive to be poor. Without the ability to invest in your own community and to circulate dollars within your own community, well, let me talk about that for a minute. If you haven't recently, take a walk through a Black and brown community. What are the businesses there that dominate the economy, that thrive on poverty? The big box retailers, fast food restaurants with their dollar menus, check cashing centers and payday loans, and liquor stores. where lottery tickets are the way out of poverty because there's nothing left. So what is unsustainable? Food deserts and fast food belts ushered in by Richard Nixon, who thought the solution to Black unrest after the Watts riots was Black business ownership. And so he urged the SBA to provide government-backed loans for fast food franchises. While fast food ownership contributed to the growth of African-American entrepreneurs and created jobs, it has not facilitated the kind of economic growth that they planned for or promised decades ago. And then entry-level jobs at the major fast food chains have notoriously high turnover, and many of their employees' wages are so low that they qualify for government programs like Medicaid and SNAP. And you can see the largest impact of the proliferation of fast food restaurants in urban communities is that where you can't find fresh produce. You can size up a Big Mac meal of a hamburger and French fries with $1, but can't find a fresh peach for under $1. Imagine the mother working 2 jobs, tired, and who needs to feed her kids. The lack of availability and affordability of health foods has arguably transformed the African-American diet from a relatively healthy one to one that's far too reliant on junk food that causes a range of problems, most notably obesity and diabetes, exacerbating health issues where it is unaffordable and lower quality. Low income also means poor schools, lower graduation rates, and lower paying jobs. And the cycle continues. And then the business solution for improving neighborhoods by most cities is what? Gentrification. It's happening right here in Nashville. Just 2 years ago, the city increased its property taxes by 38% in 1 year. So homeowners in Black and brown communities already struggling to make ends meet were forced to move out and forced to sell under market. And then their homes that they may have paid, $50,000 for, $75,000, 20 to 30 years ago are demolished and then rebuilt into new homes that sell for $1 million. It's grand theft. And until we address these issues, we cannot have urban sustainability. Now, there's some well-intentioned businesses that try to be a part of the solution. Besides being co-chair of the American Sustainable Business Council, I'm a business owner, and my company, IBIS Communications and the Global Diversity Leadership Exchange, specializes in JEDI, Justice, Equity, Dignity, and Inclusion. One of our clients, a major company, a B corporation, a company built to do good in the natural products industry, wanted to address health and wellness in Black and brown communities with JEDI, and thought that a pillar for their efforts to target the Black market was to include Black healthcare professionals in their strategy to get healthier products to Black and brown consumers. A noble idea. However, Blacks have a long history of terror in the healthcare industry, going back to the Tuskegee experiment, Black women as test subjects for gynecological experiments, and any number of horrific medical abuses, in addition to the lack of quality of care, which has created mistrust. So Black health care professionals, which are more trusted, are in high demand in our communities. But unfortunately, there are too few. What they didn't realize is that Black healthcare professionals only make up about 3% of healthcare professionals. And this is largely due to the cost of med school. So you can see how it's all interconnected. The impact of low wages, failing school systems, unaffordable healthcare, loss of land and business ownership due to gentrification. So our current system is unsustainable. At ASBC, our work in the trenches is to advocate for policy, investment, and sustainable business practices that chart a new course for the ability of communities to not just survive, but thrive and to take ownership of their own future, and to protect them from invasive, extractive, harmful business practices. And a really good example of our work on the front lines is right there in Los Angeles, in downtown Crenshaw. Downtown Crenshaw Rising, a project led by its local residents, is an opportunity for urban sustainability that is being thwarted by gentrification by a behemoth multi-use developer who has plans for high-rise luxury condos, another example of the same systemic racist business practices that have displaced generations of residents in what used to be New York's Black Harlem. Downtown Crenshaw Rising is a historic coming together of community to acquire the Crenshaw Mall and redevelop it with the principles of community wealth building. When the group of community leaders and grandmothers, who we lovingly call the grandmamas, started their fight 18 months ago to buy back Crenshaw Mall, the vision was always crystal clear: a residential and commercial space that belonged to and served the Black community, especially the working families who have held down Crenshaw for generations. And with the help of philanthropists, social impact investors, and loan guarantees, they were able to bank $60 million and offer a bid of $115 million for the property. However, a lower bid has been awarded to a multi-use developer. And now Crossroads Hollywood is a glass skyscraper set to demolish a series of historic structures and displace their longtime tenants. So ASBC continues to work with Downtown Crenshaw Rising and policy movers throughout the state of California to continue their fight to keep their homes and their businesses and to develop a community cooperative so that they can chart their own sustainable future. We provide platforms to them to share and engage support of investors and policy influencers, such as our own Social Venture Circle and the International Cooperative Association. We are on call for them to step in with political strategy and deploy our national network of resources in any way that they need. We have also engaged the MBA students at Vanderbilt's Owen School of Management in a project to innovate new strategies for investment and finance to help them in their fight to keep their community, to develop a sustainable business economy, and to support future development plans. And they could use your help at home. You call your congressional leadership, go to the town hall meetings, follow Downtown Crenshaw Rising on Twitter for updates. They are in the fight of their lives for their future to become the model of urban sustainability. And we need your help to stand up for your community. As Paul Pullman, author of a new book called Net Positive, which I highly recommend, says it's time for social activists to become business leaders and for business leaders to become social activists. Another example of our work toward a more sustainable future is using our voice to stand up against bad actors who seek to impose oppressive business practices. When one of our own SVC members, Barclays Bank, made a move to underwrite prison development in Alabama, we spoke out vociferously against that move in the media, and as much as our nonprofit could use the money, we returned their sponsorship and membership dollars to show that we mean business. Under fierce, unrelenting pressure from the sustainable business community, they backed out of the deal. It was a huge win for us and for families and for communities against the prison complex that plays a major factor in tearing families and communities apart. But it won't be the last fight. The solutions for urban sustainability require achieving equity and wealth creation, affordable housing, affordable healthcare, living wages, chemical-free environments, cooperative community economics, community land trusts, and embracing our cultural diversity. If you would like to learn more about our work on any of these issues, I invite you to join us because we need all the help we can get. It's the kind of work that takes all of us, all of you, to help us repair, restore, and rebuild to create an economy that works for all, for every community. I'd like to end with the words of Paul Hawken in one of my favorite books of this year. It's called Blessed Unrest. And Hawken ends his beautiful salient story of our movement this way. 1 million escorts are here to transform the nightmares of empire and the disgrace of war on people and place. We are the transgressors and we are the forgivers. We means all of us, everyone. There can be no green movement unless there is also a black, brown, and copper movement. What is more harmful resides within us. The accumulated wounds of the past, the sorrow, shame, deceit, and ignominy shared by every culture, passed down to every person as surely as DNA, a history of violence and greed. There is no question that the environmental movement is critical to our survival. Our house is literally burning, And it is only logical that environmentalists expect the social justice movement to get on the environmental bus. But it is the other way around. The only way we are going to put out the fire is to get on the social justice bus to heal our wounds. Because in the end, there is only one bus. Armed with that growing realization, we can address all that is harmful externally. What will guide us is a living intelligence that creates miracles every second, carried forth by a movement with no name. I love that. I read that almost once a week because I get so inspired, and I find it's absolutely true. Urban sustainability is about economic, social, and environmental justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I have a feeling that you have restructured a lot of these concepts in the minds of many of our attendees, including myself. And very exciting news about the American Sustainability Business Network. And just so that everybody is reminded, you know, recognizing systemic issues is a huge part of the solution to making sure that we have a sustainable and resilient future, and making sure that we can distribute those resources in an equitable way is really, really important moving forward. So thank you for that message. Next, we are going to be reintroducing Carolyn Choi, who is the Senior VP of Corporate Affairs at Southern California Edison, and previous to that was Vice President of Energy and Environmental Policy, also at Southern California Edison. We will now hear from Carolyn.
Having me here today. I'm Caroline Choi, the Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Edison International and Southern California Edison. For those of you who don't know Southern California Edison, we're one of the larger investor-owned utilities in the country. We serve 50 million customers across the 50,000 square miles in Southern California, headquartered here in Rosemead. Although, of course, I'm not there right now. We're still working from home and hope to get back to the office in January. I think the timing of this couldn't really be better, coming on the heels of the UN climate talks that just concluded last Saturday. And all the lofty and ambitious goals that we discussed there and I heard about and read about really are inspiring. At the end of the day, the implementation comes down at the subnational level, to the states, to the counties, to the cities. And so I think the timing of this, like I said, couldn't be better, coming on the heels of that, and to hear about what folks are doing and planning. At Southern California Edison and Edison International, we're very focused in on what California hopes to achieve both in 2030 and 2045. We've done a lot of work in this space, focused cost-effective way for California to move forward in achieving those ambitious climate goals, which also, as you all know, have a great impact on air quality, public health, and other matters. We've done a number of white papers that focus in on California. We started back in 2017. In 2019, we did our white paper on the clean power and electrification pathway, focused in on the 2045 goal coming out of SB 100 passage. And then just most recently, we did a paper called Mind the Gap, focusing back to 2030, because 2030 and achievement of the significant goals we have for 2030 is really foundational to being able to accelerate to 2045 and the carbon neutrality goals that the state has set. And those goals are ones that Edison International also has set for itself, to be carbon neutral by 2045 across its scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. So really ambitious, very exciting time to be in the industry. A lot of things that have been done already in California, truly leading the way for others, not just other states, but other countries, given that California is the 5th largest economy in the world. And so when we think about clean power, a lot happening already in this space. Of course, as you know, SB 100 setting a goal for 100% clean energy. At Southern California Edison, we're at 43% clean energy already. We feel confident that we are going to achieve it. As you think about 2045, more resources are going to be needed. We forecast an additional 80 gigawatts of large-scale, utility-scale renewable energy being needed. That's going to be accompanied by 30 gigawatts of utility-scale storage. But we also see distributed resources playing a significant role in the state's achievement of its goals, with 30 gigawatts of distributed renewables, so rooftop solar, for example, community solar, as well as 10 gigawatts of distributed storage. Again, a lot of progress has been made here. California has set the pace for many others. And we continue to invest in both procuring renewables, procuring storage, as well as making investments ourselves. We just announced, it must have been 6 weeks ago or so, the contract for another 535 megawatts of utility-owned storage that will come online by this summer, really demonstrating the commitment we have to ensuring that reliable and clean go hand in hand. It's an aggressive schedule that we have set for ourselves. The commission approval is pending, and we believe that execution is going to be really important for us to bring those resources online by August of 2022. But an exciting time, again, to be part of what's happening in the transformation of the electric utility industry. We also call for more electrification in the transportation and building sectors. And what we forecast for 2045, again, is 75% of passenger vehicles being zero emission, as well as 66% of commercial vehicles, and then 33% of the heavy duty vehicles, the semi trucks that you see on the highways. We see this again as really achievable, and our role in that is to make sure that infrastructure is in place, whether it's infrastructure that we help to facilitate or infrastructure that's coming along from many of the EVSPs, the electric vehicle service providers like Electrify America, EVgo, Charge Ready, etc. So a number of parties in this space all focusing in on providing the infrastructure so that customers feel comfortable that charging will be available, fueling by the grid will be available for them, and they don't have to worry about whether they can find a place to charge. This is particularly important, we think, in our underrepresented communities. We want to make sure that as the transformation of the industry happens, that all of our communities are going to benefit. So as we put in our infrastructure, we're very focused in on the disadvantaged communities. Half of the funding that we've gotten approval from the commission will go into disadvantaged communities, making sure that infrastructure is there. And then we also have programs that pair to that. So we have a rebate program focused in on used vehicles, $1,000 for the first, second, or third use of a vehicle. New vehicles, there's a program there for that as well. And of course, we think new vehicle ownership is really important to be a feeder pool for used vehicles for more customers of modest means. So we do think those go hand in hand. We have the state programs that we implement for new vehicles, as well as then again, utility offerings such as our used EV credit to customers, which we think will help with the affordability of vehicles, helping customers get into these vehicles and having the charging infrastructure there for them. Another place we're really focused in is on the multifamily dwellings. When we ran a pilot of our EV infrastructure program, it was one area where we saw not as much pickup. And largely that's due to sometimes building owners not managing the building, also just not wanting the headache. And so we also offer a utility ownership of our charging, so that we not only put in the infrastructure that charges, but we'll actually put in the charger itself and take care of that for those customers. We feel like this is a real opportunity there for multifamily dwellings, so that whether it's the building owner or the building manager, they don't have to worry about it. The utility will take care of it. And so we're very excited about that program and hope that we'll see a number of customers pick up and apply to be part of that. All that information around our EV programs can be found at SCE.com. So I would definitely encourage you to go online and see if there's a program offering that if you're a customer, you can take advantage of. The other place that we're very focused on, and where in our Mind the Gap paper, we just noticed that is building electrification is the furthest behind for the state to achieve both its 2030 and therefore its 2045 goals. We see that in 2045, 70% of building space and water heating would be electric, zero emission. And then again, there are definitely places in the economy where electrification is too expensive. And so low carbon fuels like hydrogen will be important. So in the building space, going back to that, it's where we are seeing the biggest gap in California. So SCE is planning to put forward an application in December that will work at least to address that gap in the Southern California area, service area. And we're very excited, hopefully, that the commission will take that up and move it forward quickly to, again, help our customers with shifting from gas, heating, gas, water to electric and emissions-free within their homes. I've talked a lot, and again, just want to say thank you for having me. Edison embraces where California is headed towards 2030 and beyond. We see a role for the electric utility to being essential. It already provides an essential service for customers as we move forward to 2030 and more places in the economy are electrified. We recognize the role that we have to be an essential service provider and needing to ensure the reliability, the resiliency, the safety of our grid, as well as the affordability. And so one of the things that we're very focused on as we look ahead to 2030 is to ensure that the product, electricity, remains something that customers see as affordable, reliable, and safe. While our projections are that electricity bills will rise as we move towards 2030 because more things that customers use, vehicles, space, water heating, etc., will become electric. Total energy use, the energy share of the wallet will go down, and so we see that balancing out because other costs such as gasoline will go away. More information again is on our website at sce.com. Again, around our sustainability goals, our clean air and climate goals. I encourage you to go there, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at caroline.choi@edisoninternational.com. Thanks so much. Have a great event.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for that message, and my apologies for mispronouncing your name initially. It is really important that we have these utility companies, on our side, taking up that task of working on electrification, and especially for homeowners or the user, making sure that ease and affordability stays a big part of the picture. So now we will move on to our next speaker, last but not least, David Peterson, Technology Manager at the Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies Office at the United States Department of Energy. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you for the introduction.
I'm so sorry. Welcome, David. My apologies.
No worries. No worries. Let me go ahead and pull up my presentation. So hopefully it's good to go now. So thank you. As mentioned, Dave Peterson, Technology Manager within the Hydrogen Fuel Cell Technologies Office, which is within the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy at the U.S. Department of Energy. Presentation will focus on some activities that we have in the area of hydrogen and fuel cells. And I'm glad to see that later today, there will be a technical panel related to the subject of hydrogen. There's really been a lot of interest in hydrogen lately. There's been really a lot of excitement growing around it over the last couple of years. And for those of us that have been in this industry for a while, we've seen this kind of come and go, this level of interest. But even 2 years ago, I remember saying that I thought this time just felt different. It really seemed to be maybe more real this time. And I'm just even that much more confident today that that really is the case. And this really could be the time of for hydrogen. And as further evidence of this, there's with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill back earlier this week by the president, there are some really strong hydrogen provisions in that, which I'll just mention real briefly. There's on the order of $9.5 billion set aside for hydrogen activities, with $8 billion of that to go toward toward what are called regional hydrogen hubs, which are really intended to be big deployments going from the hydrogen production all the way to the end use. There's also $1 billion set aside for the clean hydrogen electrolyzer program, and all these programs are over a period of about 5 years. So it's it's a lengthy investment. There's also $500 million that have been set aside for manufacturing and recycling related activities related to hydrogen and fuel cells. So let me get into my presentation with a brief overview of the U.S. energy landscape as it stands now. This pie chart here shows that the energy source of different energy sources, where petroleum is responsible for about 1/3 of the energy usage. Most of this in transportation, natural gas for about 1/3, and renewable energy on the order of about 11% and growing. This in perspective with some of the administration goals, which include net zero emissions for the economy by 2050 and 100% carbon pollution-free electric sector by 2035. And underpinning these are priorities such as ensuring benefits to all Americans with a focus on jobs, as well as an environmental justice aspect to it, with 40% of the benefits to go to disadvantaged communities. So the U.S. DOE hydrogen program gets its key authorization from the Energy Policy Act. And just a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, we published a DOE-wide hydrogen program, which includes coordination across multiple different offices within DOE, including my office, EERE, as well as the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management, Nuclear Energy, Office of Science, and I should emphasize strong coordination and collaboration across these offices. And some of the priorities laid out include production of low-cost clean hydrogen, which is efficiently and safely delivered and stored, and a big emphasis on enabling at-scale end-use applications, which kind of feeds into our H2 at scale vision, which is depicted here. We developed this initiative and launched it several years ago as a way to address the role that wide-scale deployment of hydrogen across multiple sectors can play in an increasingly interconnected energy system. I believe this figure is probably new to many of you, so I'll go through it real quickly. Now, left here, we have different energy sources which can be placed on the grid, and then the electricity is used to split water through a process called electrolysis to generate hydrogen. Today, most of the hydrogen generated in the US, and we do produce on the order of 10 million metric tons of hydrogen a year. Most of it's produced through steam methane reforming. And once you generate this hydrogen, there's any number of different uses and key opportunities for it. You can simply put it back on the grid through energy storage type application, running, sending hydrogen through, for instance, a fuel cell. There are also any number of applications related to transportation. One example being having fuel cell electric vehicles, whether it's light duty vehicles or heavy duty vehicles. And we also look at hydrogen as being a way to decarbonize hard to decarbonize industries, such as the ammonia industry or steel production or cement production as examples. I mentioned that today we generate on the order of 10 million metric tons per year, and we have developed scenarios which show could easily increase this by a factor of 2 to 5. And to give you an idea of the sort of scales we're already talking about, if we were to add another 10 million metric tons of hydrogen per year, we would essentially double today's solar or wind deployment. And there have been studies which have shown potential for really large job benefits as well as economic benefits. So the H2 at scale vision is being implemented today, including a number of projects we're supporting to demonstrate hydrogen technology. Some examples include hydrogen for marine and steel applications for hard to decarbonize industries, as well as hydrogen from renewables and nuclear energy. So this slide shows kind of a snapshot of domestic hydrogen fuel cell applications throughout the US. And just a couple highlights I'll mention. Today, there are more than 40,000 hydrogen fuel cell powered forklifts in operations at warehouses throughout the US. PEM electrolyzer industry is rapidly developing. To date, there is greater than 172 megawatts of capacity either installed or plans for. And California is clearly the leader in the US as far as hydrogen fueling stations are concerned, with on the order of 200 planned. And yeah, I believe that Cal State LA has a fueling station on site already. So this is a preliminary analysis that shows at what price hydrogen can be competitive with other competing technologies. For instance, at a price of about $5 to $6 per kilogram, there is a demand potential for on the order of 5 million metric tons of hydrogen per year if just 20% of medium-duty, heavy-duty trucks used hydrogen fuel cell powertrains. So what key points is that we really need to get to below $2 per kilogram, and to really unlock large market potentials, we need to get down to $1 per kilogram for hydrogen production. So in part because of this $1 per kilogram requirement, DOE launched the Hydrogen Energy Earthshot, which is the first in a series of energy Earthshots that DOE has announced in order to address the climate crisis. The hydrogen shot target is 111, or $1 for 1 kilogram of clean hydrogen in 1 decade. There's a website here that provides a little bit more information on this initiative. And we launched it back in June at our annual merit review and held an initial Hydrogen Shot Summit back at the end of August, at which we had over 4,400 attendees, and speakers included Bill Gates and John Kerry. So while we were really thrilled with the turnout we got there, we had wanted to know more about how we can reach even more people and gain their support, even if they are not that familiar with hydrogen right now. Our audience told us that they think the greatest barriers to public acceptance of widespread hydrogen are the cost to the end user and the need for sufficient infrastructure. We're not really surprised that cost is a huge barrier, and this lets us know that if we can tackle this challenge to achieve the hydrogen shot goal, the 111 goal, we'll not only make a major impact to the future of climate change, but also have a major impact to the general public. So is a hydrogen shot achievable, and how can we get there? We continue to do analysis, but what I show here is just one example pathway of how to get there using hydrogen from electrolysis as the example. Today we're at roughly on the order of $5 per kilogram, and we see definite pathways to get to $2 per kilogram and eventually $1 per kilogram through reduction in electricity costs down to as low as 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour, which is in line with Solar Energy Technologies Office new sunshot target, as well as reducing capital costs by greater than 80%, which analysis has shown should be attainable by going to large-scale manufacturing, looking at gigawatt scale annual production volumes, as well as with continued improvements to the electrolyzer technology. And one thing I want to make clear is that's not all about, hydrogen shot is not all about electrolysis. It includes any number of different pathways to generate clean hydrogen, including a couple of the ones given here. So in order to be successful, we realize that a big consideration is a need for collaboration both within DOE as well as with a myriad of external stakeholders including an increased emphasis on DEI principles. There has been an increased focus on benefits to underserved and disadvantaged communities. In any of our future funding opportunities will encourage broader engagement, demonstrating benefits, including DEI related. It's not shown here, but one of our main fuel cell labs, Los Alamos National Lab, has established a fuel cell minority serving institution fellowship program. And here is just an example of a project in a disadvantaged community where we're working with UPS to demonstrate fuel cell delivery vans. So also we realize that it's really critical to have international collaborations as well. We're not going to solve these climate problems by domestic advances alone. It has to be an international effort, and there are any number of different international collaborations we have, including, for instance, a clean energy ministerial, mission innovation. There's a hydrogen partnership, international partnership for hydrogen and fuel cells in the economy, which has any number of different working groups, which are working together on issues that are of interest and that can be done in more easily on an international basis. And let me just end by providing some possible ways you can engage with our office and be more informed with activities that we're carrying out. We have an annual merit review that's will be held in June this year, and hopefully we'll actually be able to hold it in person in Washington, D.C. And it's open to the general public. And at this review, it's actually a peer review. So we have peers evaluating all the funding, all the projects that we're responsible for funding. We also have monthly webinars, a H2IQ webinar on different topics, and I would anticipate that there'll be one in the near future with respect to the bipartisan infrastructure deal. And the best way to keep up with all of the activities, whether it's funding opportunities or workshops or webinars, is to sign up to receive updates from our newsletter. You can subscribe at our website. And with that, thank you for your attention. And if there's any time left, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you